Story 1. I will never be able to afford to retire. I hope that I get hit by a train when the signals are not working, so my wife can receive a significant settlement and live comfortably. Story 2. I retired almost a year ago. It's going well, but I find that I am bored most of the time. I spend a lot of time scrolling through Reddit and news sites and playing computer games. I started filling the rest of my time with working out at the gym and playing cards at the casino. As long as my social security holds out, I'll be fine. Story 3. Retired for 2.5 years now, and it's going quite well. Health-wise, mine isn't great, but you can't have everything, I guess. Story 4. Honestly, I don't think my retirement will be available by the time I reach that age. I expect it will be pushed beyond 70 years. I'm not really interested in working that long, to be honest. In all seriousness, one day I will be tired of it. There is a cruise that goes around the world and stops at every continent for around $130,000. I have that much equity in my house, so I plan to sell the house, take the 9 to 10 month cruise, and go out on my own terms when I return. Story 5. I have been retired for 6 months and am financially stable. My take-home income remains the same without needing to withdraw from my 401k at this time. Once the cost of living increases by another 20%, I may need to start accessing those funds. I do not have a spouse or close friends, and I spend most of my time watching television, caring for my grandchildren, and going to the movies. Story 6. I am 59. I will never be able to retire, even though statistically I have slightly more savings than the average American. That offers no consolation when the cost of living has been out of reach for decades and wages have been purposefully stagnant. Trickle up. Story 7. I need to work for my mental health, so I will always want to have some work. If the cost of utilities keeps going up, I don't know how anyone but the wealthy can retire. I have lived mortgage-free for nearly 7 years, and my monthly expenses are the same now as when I had a mortgage. I had 1 year of having some money. Then the lockdown and the cost of living crisis occurred. My luck. Story 8. I will never be able to afford to retire in the conventional sense. I will work until I die, get fired, or become physically or mentally unable. Story 9. I thought I was doing well. However, in the last 5 years, 1. My rent doubled for the same place. Interest rates doubled. My pay has not increased. Starting salaries at new jobs have decreased. My grocery bill doubled. For some reason, all the utility companies raised their prices due to inflation affecting energy costs. A multitude of other factors. Right now, I am just trying to eliminate every cent of debt and then focus on saving as much as I can. I am also working on some side hustles for extra cash. Retirement is uncertain. Story 10. I believe my retirement will go well. My fiancé and I both have good government pensions, and we will also have inheritances. Our plan when we turn 55 is to sell our properties here and move to the Philippines. Story 11. It's unsettling how some users choose to be deliberately unhappy. I hope my retirement will be comfortable. I'm trying to prepare in case it isn't. Story 12. I can retire at 50 from my air traffic control job as long as Trump doesn't interfere. Hopefully, we'll see how the next few years go. Story 13. To be honest, I don't know if my job currently offers a tax-deferred retirement savings option, where they deduct $200 from my paycheck. However, I need to educate myself on how to better secure my retirement. Story 14. I don't think I will ever be able to afford it. I grew up reasonably well but had to rely on my grandparents a lot for necessities like school and healthcare. I can barely afford an education, and securing a decent paying job without some form of higher education is challenging, let alone with my degree, which I appreciate but did not want to pursue in a field that I dislike. Even if I managed to find a better paying job, given the current state of the world and expenses like medication, I would be living paycheck to paycheck, meaning there would be no savings for retirement. I realized from a young age that I would never be able to afford higher education or live in a nice house, and I knew that retirement is not an option since my parents expect me to use my resources for their retirement. Story 15. I will never be able to afford to retire. I have a retirement account and have saved, although not enough towards it, but I know I won't get there. With the increases in costs, I will likely need to take a loan against my retirement account. I am 60, and it's just not feasible that I will reach a time when I can afford to retire before I die. Story 16. I was fortunate to work for a state government agency, and the state has an excellent retirement plan. I retired at 55 and a half after giving them exactly 30 years and not a minute more. I have not missed a payment since the day I retired. The insurance I kept is expensive, but it's great coverage. I do some part-time work to stay busy, and the additional income is always welcome. The downside is that most of my friends are still working. Story 17. I was on track with my savings until our new leadership decided to crash the economy and destroy what little social safety nets we had. Unless there is a significant shift in American attitudes towards social responsibility in the next 30 years, I assume I will die in poverty like my grandparents and their parents before them. Story 18. I am 38 years old and not American. I have been investing and saving for a few years now, and it looks like I will be able to retire around the age of 65 if I stay healthy and economically active until then. Story 19. Retired 2 years ago. This is great. The job I retired from developed a toxic work environment. Employees were bored and pampered. They complained about everything. Eventually, they started complaining about each other. After the pandemic, upper management stopped addressing these behaviors. We couldn't replace anyone who left the company. There were still policies against those behaviors. They just wouldn't enforce them. Hopefully, I will never supervise another employee again. Now life is blissful. Financially, it is also going better than I expected. If Social Security and Medicare are eliminated, that will be a problem. If this happens, a significant medical expense would end an otherwise great retirement. Currently, I have health insurance through the marketplace, which is more reasonable than I budgeted. Story 20. With Trump in control and the stock market declining, and Elon Musk considering Social Security, I would say I am in a difficult situation. I guess I will plan to move somewhere warm and be homeless when I can no longer work. Story 21. I had been feeling okay about it until the election. I've always known I couldn't retire in extravagance but felt reasonably sure I could retire comfortably. Now I'm considering retiring in Ecuador just to be able to live. Story 22. Strategically maintaining the right balance of healthy and neglected body parts so I can continue working until I can no longer do so. Story 23. I haven't thought about retirement yet. If the economic conditions continue, I may not have a retirement. Story 24. I don't think I'll ever retire, but that's mostly because of my family history of heart disease. No man on either side of my family has ever lived beyond the age of 70, and few have made it to 65. I do have a retirement savings plan, but I see it as a form of life insurance for my family. I believe that, just like a healthy environment and a stable middle class, retirement will be something the baby boomers take with them to the grave. Story 25. I am 29 years old and expect to retire at age 55 to 60, in good health and maintaining the same level of consumption as during my working years. I am currently on track to achieve this with my retirement contributions, assuming historically normal investment returns and a realistically reduced Social Security benefit. Many people in this discussion may not realize that this is attainable for most if you simply plan. The future is not as bleak or hopeless as you might think. Story 26. I like to focus on the fact that I live within 3 miles of a nuclear power plant, which is an interesting detail considering the current situation. Financially, our economy is struggling. I prefer not to check my retirement account. If things improve, I might be okay. Story 27. I expect I will die before retirement age due to the stress my job demands. I hope my wife and kids will have a wonderful life, and it will have been worth the sacrifice. My father did the same, and his father did the same before him. The men in my family shine brightly but ultimately burn out. Story 28. At the current rate of my plans, once I finish my degree and jobs, including my political career, I will be retired by age 32 to 34 due to investments and proper wealth management. Story 29. I retired at 55. It has been 10 years now. I should have retired sooner. Life is good. My net worth has tripled because I don't buy into the nonsense. don't take risks, and avoid over-diversifying my stock portfolio. For context, I never made much money, but I saved 10 to 25% of every paycheck from when I was 20 and invested it. I never lost half of my assets to a divorce. Retirement must be a plan that you work on every week for life. No one will do it for you. The government is not here to help us. There was a seminar I attended a long time ago that opened my eyes. They emphasized, pay yourself first. You are the most important person in your life. Every paycheck, pay yourself 10%, put it away, and invest it. Pay yourself first before your car payment, electricity bill, or mortgage. If you fail to plan and save, you are failing yourself like many of the commenters. I just can't imagine having to work in my 60s next to insecure, unconfident individuals. Story 30. I don't know what it will look like, but I'm trying my best. I'm following all of the traditional advice and investing as much as I can into my tax-sheltered plan and Roth individual retirement account, investing in mutual funds and leaving it alone, and ensuring I have enough in emergency funds so that I don't need to touch my retirement funds. Even then, I just don't know what life will be like 30 to 35 years from now, and perhaps all the right moves today are the wrong ones for the future. Story 31. Retired at 63, 3 years ago. Moved back home to an area with a low cost of living and inherited 13 acres in the countryside. My retirement savings have only been used to build a large garage, but we probably won't use them again until my wife and I see what is going to happen politically. We are most likely not going to starve, but we are already planning to cut back on our travel plans. And yes, I do know that we are extremely fortunate, so we are not complaining. Story 32. I cannot retire until my mortgage is paid off. And even then, I cannot see myself spending all day doing nothing. Financially, I have a good job, a pension, and other pensions from previous long-term jobs. How far will it go? Just enough to survive, I guess. I will probably end up working part-time at least until the inevitable end. Story 33. I'm sitting in an apartment with a mattress, a couch, 2 desks, and a dinner table. We have a refrigerator, a washer, a coffee maker, and a few computers. I've worn the same 3 shirts for the last 3 weeks and the same jeans for at least the last 7 days. No debt, no car, no complaints. The problem is that no one envisions this as a positive lifestyle choice. Story 34. I am 48 years old and I will have to work until I die. There is no way that I will have enough money to retire. Story 35. Brother. I'm overwhelmed. I just went over other forums, and there are people my age, 30, with apparently 400,000 already in retirement. I make decent money and have no debt aside from a mortgage, but I only have about 20,000 in savings. Story 36. I have been saving a lot. I expect to retire around my 50s. It's not that hard. Just save and invest. Skip the $5 coffees. Story 37. Despite assurances that the Canada Pension Plan Fund is healthy and sustainable, I have always felt that a national crisis is inevitable, and the government will use it to justify accessing those funds. I work for the federal government and have already earned a small pension, but I fear losing that job during the next Conservative administration. Union jobs with pensions are declining, and I have serious doubts I would find another position as good as this. I am a homeowner and am on track to pay off my mortgage in 2 years at 39 years of age. So I take comfort in knowing that I am secure in that aspect until a wildfire potentially threatens my home. Story 38. I'm not sure I will have the funds, but I also do not want to. I mostly enjoy working. Of course, I am aware that my health situation will change as I age, but who knows when and for how long. I am doing my best to save and invest, and we will just see what happens. Story 39. At age 35, I am 90% sure I will not be able to retire, or at least not in a dignified way. My country has already experienced a total collapse of the pension and welfare system, and it is unlikely to improve in my lifetime. Story 40. I bought a house recently after realizing that I wouldn't be able to complete a full 25-year mortgage, the most you can sensibly get in the United Kingdom before it becomes excessively expensive, before retirement if I wasn't quick. The only thing I could afford on my own was a small bungalow. It's ex-council social housing from a long time ago, designed for disabled individuals and retirees, but now way out of their price range. It is in a remote location with no local facilities, just one farm shop and a tiny quiet pub far enough away that it's not an issue. The property is situated in an area of outstanding natural beauty and special scientific interest, which means you cannot build anything near it. As I was looking at other houses in towns within my budget, I expected this would be the last property I could afford or have the opportunity to buy. I was considering the area, the neighbors, and what might happen over time. Would I have to deal with conflicts over parking, extensions, new estates, and so on? Could I make changes to the property? I want to be utility independent by retirement because the utilities in my country have often been unreliable, and I don't want to depend on them. Can I install solar panels? Park a car without restrictions? Get decent internet access? I started rejecting places based on these considerations. Flats and apartments with numerous neighbors were not for me. Noisy high streets or flats above shops and nightclubs were off the list. Crowded areas that were difficult to park in now, let alone with another 25 years of development, were unsuitable. I avoided places that are currently empty but may be developed in the future, turning a quiet backstreet into a main road. I ruled out properties with ground rent, leasehold, or homeowners associations. As I reflected on these aspects, I began to think more about what my retirement would look like. I haven't cared much over the last 25 years, but I value my peace and quiet, and I had to consider, for the first time in my life, what retirement would mean for me. My pension will be adequate, but if I can pay off the house, it will be quite decent. Without the house, my pension would be insufficient, likely forcing me to live in social housing for the rest of my life. I do not want that, especially since loan mails are rarely prioritized, and they can move you to another town or even county entirely due to housing availability. Story 41. My retirement will be acceptable at best. I will grow old, have a bit of cash, watch a lot of television, read some books, listen to a lot of music, explore the internet, and eventually my body will stop functioning and I will pass away. However, for many people slightly younger than me who do not have assets or adequate pensions, the future looks bleak. They will face a long, difficult struggle renting expensive homes on limited pensions, hoping to inherit properties from deceased parents, and facing poverty. 30 years from now, it will be common to see homeless pensioners and shared living situations among retirees, which will be disheartening. The system will be broken, and younger generations may see no reason to adhere to social norms. Difficult times are ahead. Story 42. Retirement is not a tangible concept. It is an idea that most people will not encounter unless they choose poverty or possess extreme wealth. Story 43. I have asthma, a heart condition, and I am anorexic. I am not planning for retirement. I want to provide more support for the children. Story 44. Honestly, it will go one of two ways by the time I'm ready. Either retirement will only be a thing for the wealthy, or retirement as we know it will be completely different. I hope to stay healthy and able-bodied enough to work until I die, but who knows? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.